cast by a rising sun. 5 stories now, woven as one. Cedric walks with oaths made bright. Steel and mercy, shield of light. He does not bend, he does not sway. He chooses faith each break of day. Move beside me, calm and vast. A tide, no prison, never held fast. Crystal edges, acid hem. A heart too kind for those who judged her grim. Serena burrs, but not for praise. No longer trapped in golden haze. Her light is hers, no altars claim. She shines because she chose her flame. And Nessa walks with embered eyes. Power coiled but discipline. No chains remain upon her will. Only far she chooses to five against the horizon. Five where the wild winds blow. We are not bound by distance. We are the road we chose. If the world draws lines around us, we step beyond the seam. Five against the horizon, and I still dare to dream. They whisper now in tavern air of crimson cloth and forest snare. A witch who laughs where roots entwine, a boundary drawn in leaf and vine. They say the woods do not release, that heroes fail and spells all feast. That moss remembers every tread and turns the hopeful back instead. But I have seen what fear can make and how a voice can cause it break. If fate itself can hesitate, then walls are only roots that wait. Five against the horizon. Five where the wild winds blow. We are not bound by distance. We are the road we chose. If the world draws lines around us, we step beyond the seam. Five against the horizon, and I still dare to dream. Let the forest guard its secret. Let the leaves conceal the sky. If someone laughs behind the branches, we will ask the question why. No cage was ever made, traitor. No chain was grown so that it's grown. If something moves inside a boundary, we will hear it call out. copper light, with foxes curled in red and white. A ribbon laugh, a moss soft grin, as if no thorn has touched her skin. She charms the ache from traverse bone, turns bitter roots to honey tone. And when I ask how long she stayed, she twirls and says, oh, I mislaid. They say I'm fine, they say I'm free. The forest quite adores me, but when she walks toward open sky, the leaves grow still, the wind runs dry. She's cute and crimson, sweet and bright, a whirling bloom and fills her light. She jokes, she heals, she makes it art, but some still binds her at the heart. She laughs as if it does not sting, as if roots are a gentle thing. But I have heard what sirens means when laughter wilts between the gleams. With careful grace, as unseen force halts her pace. Serena's glow reflects the seam where air distorts like broken dream. Ooh, shifts softly, watching close while knives the sun narrows her gaze at ghost. I sing a note and feel it bend, but not enough to break the end. She shrugs and says it's all quite fine. I have my grove, my vine, my wine, yet something trembles in her tone like petals pressed in undertow. She's cute and crimson, stuck in green, a queen confined to what has been. She sings to birds, she charms the rain, but never walks beyond her chain. The boundary hovers beneath her feet, a velvet cage and lost repeat. And though she smiles when day is done, her eyes still chase the setting sun. With scroll and blade and righteous fear, they tried their spells, they swung their pride. The forest always turned the tide. But when I ask what she would choose, it finds release, dead eludes withdrew. She does not joke, she does not grin, she only watches when I in the mossy green courtroom of oak and pine, where the squirrels hold grudges and the mushrooms shine. A dozen brave bandits with questionable aim leapt from the bushes and shouted their name. Stand and deliver, one tripped on a root, another dropped arrows and blamed it on loot. Their leader cried, fear us, we lurk in the wood, while wrestling a cloak that was stuck on a hood. You swagger like a summer fly, convinced the world will not swipe by. Your boots are loud, your threats rehearsed, but confidence and skill diverge. You puff your chest, you bear your grin, as if you've ever truly won. I've seen scarecrows with more command, and they at least can guard a land. You call this steel? You call this might? into your spine, but not your yoke. You threaten coin, you threaten pain, yet tremble when I speak your name. Your bravado cracks at every seam. You are the footnote of a scream. I do not need to raise my tone. Your doubt was always overgrown. Did you think the woods would fear a man who shakes when truth draws near? Did you think your blade would sing against a voice that bends a king? You aim to rule this little blade, yet fall beneath the serenade. I need no spell of flame or sky. I lay your certainty run pride. One by one your bravest fall, not by wound but self-appalled. Your thoughts turn inward sharp and raw. You see yourselves without being all. Because this was never a war. This was rot and rotten core. You could have chosen better roads, could have borne a different load, but you mistook a forest path for easy coin and hollow wrath. So hear me now and hear me clear. Your terror is your loudest fear, and should you crawl from this disgrace, remember how you lost to no blood was spilled, no blade was drawn, no shield was made at early dawn. You fell beneath reflected sight, exposed to your own borrowed line. No, tell the world you faced a storm, a crimson voice in traveling form, and no, the forest heard you cry before you even say goodbye. We took the witch with us to find a way to lift the curse. The forest rose in twisted might, a titan crowned in bark and blight. Its roots tore deep, its branches wide, a cathedral groan of choking pride. Cedric struck and light replied, who split in from either side. Serena burned through emerald hide, yet still it would not be denied. The air grew tight, the leaves fell still, as if the world forgot its will. I drew a breath, too short to keep, a nerve too vast, too wide, too deep. Not whispered, shown your cutting jest, but something torn from deeper chest. The sky bent close to hear me cry, the ground refused to let it lie. And when the sound could not be spared, the forest learned what voice declared. It started low, a trembling seam, a fracture in the living green, a sphere of force in pulsing ring. The air itself began to sing. Cedric's shield caught shards of sound. Dude was driven to the ground. Serena's light flickered and flared. Even Nevesa did not dare step too close to speak my name. As thunder gathered with the flame, I drew a breath, too short to keep, a note too vast, too wide, too deep. No blade could carve what sound became. No wolf contained its rising claim. The bark split open to roar. Its limbs no longer held the floor. The canopy fell in broken arcs, ash and pollen, light and sparks. Silence rushed where thunder stood, an empty echo through the wood. I felt the tremor in my veins, as if I'd pulled too hard at chains. This was not naughty nor grace, not gentle hymn in quiet place. This was a storm with not a sea, a force I barely meant to free. I saw it then in widened eyes, not fear of loss, but of a size of what my voice might one day do. If ever I let all of it trees recall the word I spoke. No steel was drawn to in that fight. No flame consumed the towering light. A stellate solid, raw and bare, a crimson storm that split the air. And when the dust refused to lie, then the forest wondered why. He steps as though the ground agreed. Each root parting for his need. No armor forged, no weapon drawn, just bark and breath at break of dawn. His voice is moss and rain combined, a tone that does not strain or bind. He looks at her, not us, but her, as though the world begins with her. I have not harmed what blooms in shade. I kept her safe, I kept her made. He says the forest does not cage. It simply guards what fears the age. He says the sky devours bright things, and love is proven by its rings of bark and vine and patient years. He calls confinement gentle care, but roots that hold against a will are roots that choose to hold her still. He speaks of cities made of smoke, of oaths that shattered when they broke, of mortals burning what they craze, then mourning ash for endless days. She glides, he says, where storms are few, where every leaf already knew her name before the wind could claim a world that does not speak her name. He does not shout, he does not plead. He only calls it sacred need. He says the forest does not shade. not preserved by calling home. He says the forest does not mind. It only shades the gentler kind of life untouched by ruin's hand, of beauty kept by rooted land. Never seen of cages closed. Invites a claim that love you so, and when it's formed to call it bow, the trees leave crows as if to the forest does not argue it
The ground beneath us split and rose, a tide of roots in tightening rows. No single beast, no crown design, just forest will in thorn and vine. The path was swallowed branch by branch, the canopy bent low to blanch. The air grew thick with creeping seam, as if the woods had drawn a dream. No face to strike, no throat to cry, just living walls that would not die. Stand and be measured, stand and break. This ground is not yours to take. If root and bark would bar our way, then root and bark will learn today. When iron bears the weight of light and shield descends with heaven's might, no single foe need show its name. The forest itself will feel the flame. I stepped into the rising snare, as branches clawed at open air. The oath within my guarded chest began to burn and answer press. Radiance flooded forged embrace, still alive with sacred trace. Not cast to win nor hurled astray, but driven where the roots gave way. Let timber quake, let greenwood bend. When judgment strikes, it does not end. Stand and be measured, stand and yield. The light I carry is not concealed. When shield meets soil in thunder's wake, the buried veins of earth will shake. No demon crown nor tyrant's face, but creeping will in choking place. And still I drive the brilliance through until the path breaks clean and true. The impact rang through trunk and loam, a burst that cracked the forest dome. Radiant fracture split the seam of woven branch and strangled dream. The vines recoiled in searing arcs, ash white scars in emerald dark. The way ahead breathed open space where light had carved a righteous trace. Faith is not a whispered plea, it moves the earth beneath my knee. If wilderness would claim decree, then let it test its strength on me. No idol cast to sky.
park still smokes where sound was cast. The shattered limbs lie in the grass. The forest hums in tightened breath, not dead, not calm, but close to wrath. The shield marks scars the torn up ground, where radiant force drove roots unbound. The trees lean inward, branch and seem as if they heard too much of me. We sit where battle just withdrew, where pollen drifts like broken truth. The joke wears thin when danger's near, when laughter trembles under fear, when someone calls it care and grace, but will not let you leave your place. She smiles still, but something bends. The mask no longer fully mends. For once the forest showed its hand, and still it says she cannot stand. You broke his guardian, she says low, as if that fact might change the flow. And he dissolved to leaf and air, but he is still everywhere. The canopy feels heavier now, each branch a watching silent vow. The path beyond the tree line glows, yet will not let her footsteps go. He says he guards me from the flame, but I did not ask him to claim. The joke wears thin when walls respond, when roots reach back from beyond, when every step toward open sky is met with silent, patient why. She laughs, but it does not ring as bright as it did yesterday. The forest tried to pull her in, and still it calls that love, not sin. Cedric's light still scars the loam, where creeping wood was overthrown. The air still trembles from my cry that split the bark and shook the sky. If protection means restraint, if love must seal what it calls saint, then something in that gentle tone has turned possession into throne. I was not harmed, she says again, but neither can I choose nor mend. The seasons turn, I never do. The path repeats the same old view. Her fingers brush the boundary seam, where wind grows thin and sky turns green. The joke wears thin when hope takes root, when silence cracks the practice flute, when battle shows what words conceal, and truth steps forward sharp and real. She sets the cup aside at last. No forest hush can hold it fast, and in the space where laughter dies, she lifts her voice and does not hide. I want to leave. It should have roamed in mountain shade, with velvet crown and claws well made, not thorns through hide, and sat for blood, not eyes that wept corrupted mud. The forest trust what once was whole, it dressed is rotten to its soul, and calls that growth and calls that fade. I call it wrong, I do not wait. The vines snap tight, the beast lunges wide. I feel the shift begin inside. my body answers to protection. My fury sharpens into spine. Crystal forms at every edge. Acid weeps where I decide. If forest the one for once was noble, then I will carve the rot aside. Its claws crash down and splintered ox. The ground erupts in shattered bark. It roars in pain, not fully known. A creature lost to will not own. I meet it head on, shape and flow. My limbs extend, my fractures grow. Hard facets catch the failing light as a liquid edges thirst for fight. Not blind, not wild, not out of control. Every strike is chosen. I do not rage without a reason. I do not strike without a cause. My fury bends into a weapon. My mercy waits behind my claws. Ultra acid along the seam where crystal pierces. Cursed it high. If something pure has been corrupted, then I will stand and not deny. Under hissing rain, as acid burns through thorn and vein, my blade retract and pierce again until the bramble breaks its chain. I do not hate what it became. I hate the hand that shaped its frame. The forest takes what it can claim and calls it love and calls it once shaped in coals of blast. A thing contained a labromass. They named me monster, named me flaw, until I learned what I was for. Not ruin, not rage, but shield and blade. Not fury lost, but fury made. I do not rage without a reason. I do not bleed for empty pride. My body bends to shield my toes and my acid mocks the turning tide. Let forest twist and roots entwine. Let guardians rise and spirits cry. If something threatens those I follow, it is that something that will die.
Owlbear's body did not fall to soil and silence, done with all. Its thorned hide split where acid ran, but roots emerged beneath the span. Where crystal pierced and slime had burned, the forest did not twist or churn. It thickened bark where scars had been. It drank the wound and drew it in. Nothing we break stays broken long. The forest holds and corrects the wrong. Nothing we do is forgotten. Nothing we carve is erased. The green does precious flow. Yet now the trunks resist its glow. A resin coats the tender grain that dulls corrosion into stain. The warden's voice is never loud, yet branches bend as if they bowed. He does not shout, he does not rage, he edits us upon his page. If preservation is his creed, then learning is his favored seed. He feeds on data, feeds on flaw. He strengthens bark with what he saw. The owlbear's fall was not defeat. It was a lesson made complete. Nothing we do is forgotten. Nothing we break is the end. The forest reshapes the pattern and grows a counter to bend. This is not chaos we're facing, not mindless thorn or blind attack. It is a will that observes us and grows from the ground we crack. We are being studied. No claws this time, no thorned advance, no creeping vine and choking dance. Instead, a dome of woven green, a living shield serene, unseen. It hums with borrowed sunlight's grace, a mirror to my old embrace. It answers steel with quiet flare, it answers flame with patient glare. They built a wall of leaf and spell, a perfect prison woven well. I do not beg the dawn for power, I do not count the cost per hour. The light was never loaned to me, it lives beneath my certainty. If barrier stands and will not part, then I will open it with heart. No burst, no fleeting burning flare, but sun that simply stays there. I lift my hand and feel no drain, no hollow ache, no measured strain. The beam ignites a steady line, a pillar drawn from something mine. It strikes the dome in blinding gold, not rage, not wrath, but truth made bold. Layer by layer, the green turns thin, not shadow fast, but ward within. It pushes back, it thickens skin, but I do not profane within. I do not beg the dawn for power, I do not count the cost per hour. The light is not a bomb flame, it answers only to my name. If forest weaves a wall of will, then let it weave it still. For suns do not exhaust their fire, they rise because they must aspire. Stone begins to fracture slow, not from a strike, but constant glow. It trembles under endless day. Its
emerald brilliance fades to gray. I feel no fading in my chest, no ebb, no hollow in my breath. This is not miracle bestowed, this is the light I always own. They caught me big and caught me sign, a symbol carved in sacred line. But light is not for pedestal, it moves, it burns, it is perpetual. If dawn can rise each single morn, then so can I reborn.
My demonic form is now restrained. No thorn reached out to bar our way, no roots rose up in slow display. The path lay open, bare and wide, too calm, too clean, too satisfied. The wind moved soft through patient leaves, no whisper hissed between the trees. Even the canopy withdrew as if it waited something new. Silence is not surrender. Stillness is not defeat. Roots remember what we break. Bark recalls each scar we make. The forest does not waste its pain. It folds it back through wood and vein. If green grows quiet after war, it may be building something more. The guardian splintered crown was gone. The place it fell now smooth as dawn. No shattered limb, no fractured core, as if it had not died before. The owlbear's bones we left behind were nowhere near the scar we'd find. Instead, the ground felt thick and deep, like something turning in its sleep. We should have heard it underfoot, a deeper pulse in root and soul. Roots remember what we burn. They take the lesson, let it turn. Acid, light, and thunder cry are written where the rings lie. And if no branches block the sky, perhaps the danger lies below. Cedric knelt and touched the loam, said nothing, but he felt it hum. Serena's glow flickered thin, a vasa sigil stirred within. Who pressed her palm against the ground, her crystal edges barely sound. And through her shifting liquid frame, she felt the weight without a name. It was not rage that stilled the trees, not fear, not loss, not injury. It was alignment, slow and vast, of fallen things rejoined at last. The guardians bark, the albay is barring, the hardened resin layered in line. Everything we thought we won was never gone. Roots remember what we break. They gather every fault we make. They still forged of broken green, a towering spine of bark and bone, of guardian shard and owlbear throne, and emerald veins through resin sealed, a titan born of battlefield. It rose where all our victories lay, and I understood too late. We helped it grow. Slept from bark and bone, the forest kept the guardian's ribs, the owlbear's spine, a cathedral grown from battle lines. Each step it took bent root and stone, the glade became its moving throne. Not rage, not hunger drove its climb, just patience carved in rings of time. I cast the storm across the air, the force that split the guardian's glare, but when it struck that towering frame, the titan barely felt the flame. Then what remains for us to be? Cedric roared and charged the height, a comet dressed in righteous light, his shield ignite and blazing gold, and slammed the titan's rooted hold. Radiant chains from faith unbound wrapped living bark and locked it down. The forest groaned beneath the weight of a light that would not tolerate, yet still chains across the ground, each step a mountain, grinding sound. The forest wearied, lessons learned, each wound a page where wisdom burned. We carved and burned and sang and bled, yet still the titan pushed ahead. A crystal steer, her roaring bright and cold and clear. Aztec thunder filled the glade as emerald edges formed the blade. She struck the titan through the core, pinned cathedral into floor. A shifting lance of living glass through guardian bolt and resin mass. Yeah, even nailed to earth and sky, the titan simply would not die. Serena's beam, a rising dawn. Strike light and harried on. Lights, the sigils burned the air, but still the titan did not change. Wind gave it thunder, gave it flame, yet still it won. The strength to save the forest, shaped by every scar. A god of patience grown from war. If every strike becomes a shield, what false remains we have not wielded. Serena's light grew wide and bright, yet still the titan walked through light. Knives, stars, emerald runes aligned, yet found no fracture left to find. The forest wore a strength like skin, a living archive grown with it, and for a breath I feared the truth. The forest might outlast the sun. where Titan fell and light had burned. Ash drifted slow through wounded leaves, and none of us had strength to turn. Serena's beam had faded thin, the gold now trembling in her hand. Nyvessa's sigils flickered weak like dying stars above the land. The storm was done, but not the war. The roots withdrew beneath the ground. The wind refused a single sound, and silence started moving. The forest watched before we came, before our songs, before our flame, before the cities carved the stone, before our fragile thrones were grown. And when it chose to finally speak, the earth itself began to break. The soil unfolded underfoot as ancient bark began to rise. A towering shape of root and crown, with emerald fire for patient eyes. Branches curved like antlered kings, leaves turned slowly in the light, and every tree within the glade bowed gently to the towering sight. Not rage, not wrath, just endless tide. We fought the woods and broke its hand, we burned the roots across the land, yet still the forest did not cry. It simply waited for reply. For storms may pass, but forests stay. I watched the river shape this earth before your kind had learned to stand. I watched the mountains bow to years before you scarred this fragile land. The witch you seek, the one you free, was never meant to suffer pain. The world beyond these ancient trees would break her heart again and again. Its voice was not a roar of war, but something older than the shore. I kept her where the roots run deep, where wolves and wind and rivers sleep. For love that walks the wider plain may find a world that answers pain. Serena tried to lift her hand, but light would no longer obey. The sun that once had split the sky now flickered weak and slipped away. Nyvessa's emerald horns burned dim, her sigils breaking into dust. She took one step, then slowly fell, and silence followed where she drove. The Solar Felball took its cost. Two stars burned bright, and both were lost. Not death, but empty flame. The forest stood in patient grace, a god of bark and ancient place. No hatred in its emerald sight, just quiet certainty. my side. You kept me safe, I know you did. From broken roads the world once hid. But safety's just a gilded room when every door becomes your tomb. I'm cute in crimson, curse and flame, a woodland witch who learned the game. If roots can move and bark can fight, then watch a mage rewrite the night. No chains today, no forest bed. Let's see how well you dodge instead. A flick of wrist, a flash of red, a fireball blooms beside your head. But when you turn to crush the flame, I'm somewhere else inside the game. Teleport between the trees, arcane sparks in dancing breeze. A blast of force against your chest, a trick, a laugh, another test. You guard the woods with endless grace, but even forests lose a chase. I'm cute in crimson, curse and flame, a witch who finally leaves the game. No cage of leaves, no roots below, just one last fight before I go. You raised these woods, you shaped the land, but you don't get to choose my Another fire splits the air, a crimson star beyond your stare. You crush the blast with ancient might, but every strike cost you the fight. Arcane sigils spark and spin, teleport then strike again. A laugh escapes my breathless chest. Gods, I miss this. But even clever spells grow thin when ancient forests lean within. Your roots rise high, your branches wide, a world of bark I cannot hide. Cedric falls beside the stone, Serena's light already gone. Ives's runes are fading fast, and Lirael's song cannot last. The storm is gone, the forest stays. I know you meant to shelter me, to keep me safe beneath your tree. You watched the years I could not roam and called that kindness, called it home. But love that cages hearts to stay is still a prison made of clay. My final fire breaks the night, a crimson bloom of fading light. You crush the spark before it spreads, the forest bending overhead. My breath runs thin, the magic slow, the clever tricks have nowhere to go. And when I fall against the ground, the forest does not make a sound.
like pillars through the land. Cedric's shield lay cracked beside him. Serena's light slipped from her hand. Knife's runes had turned to embers. Karli's crimson fire burned thin, and somewhere in the broken silence, I felt the storm return again. A voice beside me, soft and low. Lirael, don't move. Crawling through the battlefield, emerald blood across the stone, her shifting form barely holding, yet somehow still she reached my own. I don't know if this will work, she whispered, her voice like water over flame, and then the world began dissolving. Strings like lightning, wild and strange. Every chord a thunder crack. Every echo pushing back. And when I screamed, the forest shook. The roots themselves began to laugh. Crimson storm and emerald scream. Reality tearing at the seam. Two voices burning through the same impossible problem taint. The warden stood where forests grow, but now it's faced the storm view. And for the first time since roots first touched the earth, the forest hesitated.
where your roots pretend you're wise. You called it love, this prison garden, but love does not grow out of lies. You wrapped her life in vines and silence, called it safety, called it care, but locking someone in a forest is just a cage with leaves for hair. Oh, patient God of bark and moss, you speak of care, you count the loss, but all your wisdom, all your years still couldn't see the cage you built with fears. You watched the seasons pass above her, sun and rain through prison leaves. You called it mercy, called it shelter, while quietly stealing all she breathes. You whispered child through patient branches, you hummed old hymns of ancient ground, but every lullaby you offered was just another chain you wound. You call this love, you call this care. You built a prison made of it. Centuries sitting in your silence, counting rings and naming sign, thinking patience equals wisdom while repeating the same old climb. You think that roots mean understand, and you think that age makes judgment true, but centuries of silent thinking still didn't make you think it through. Love is messy, love is wild, love lets someone run a mile. Love does not trap beating hearts just because you stand apart. Look around, your forest trembles, every leaf can feel the lie. Even roots begin to loosen, even bark begins to sigh. You called yourself her quiet guardian, protector carved from patient wood, but every year you stole from her is proof you never understood. You guarded her from every scar by locking her exactly where you are. You feared the world would hurt her spirit, feared the chaos, feared the flame, so you chose a softer violence and wrapped control in love's sweet name. But love is not a careful prison, love is not a padded room. Love is letting someone stumble even if they walk too Look closely now, forest watcher, do you feel the roots give way? The ground beneath your ancient patience does not believe you anymore today. The forest shakes, the bark unwinds, the lie you told, undressed with time. Before the storm, pinned by something you can't name, a song you never tried to listen, a heart that never played your game. You thought your patience made you righteous, you thought your silence made you strong, but love requires listening, and you have me wrong. You were wrong. Hindsight is fading, old street sirens, I tried the patient poet's way, but clearly metaphors and kindness still can't make your branches sway. So let me try a simple language where the stubborn guide by here. I am done explaining love to a tree not built its throne from fear. Crimson storm and emerald theme, realities tearing at the seams. Two souls burning through white breath, a star compressed to deal with death. If you never learned, you never tried, you're empty fear and forest pride, and I am tired of
truce to something made of bark and lies. So here's the mercy you deserve. No roots to cling, no throne to keep, just quiet soil and endless flame. Burn dissolve, roots crumble, ancient magic fades, the forest the vines around the witch fall silent, tears unravel from her skin. Time itself loosens the prison, gives those storm mornings in. Cedric breathes and Serena rises, knife stirs through fading pain. Karli stands beneath the sunlight, young and laughing once again. Your life is yours again, Karli. Go live it, and let the sea finally fall.
The forest feels smaller now, strange thing to say, I know. For years these trees were all I saw, now suddenly they feel below. The vines that once would pull me backwards sleep quietly beneath the ground. And every step beyond the clearing feels like a spell I never found.
The witch was free today, no roots beneath my feet.
The world is wider than the woods and wildly incomplete. I tried a fireball in the sunlight just to see it in the air, not trapped between the mossy branches, but blooming bright out there somewhere. I blinked ahead a few small paces, a lazy teleport for fun. No vine snapping back in warning, no whispered child, you must not run.
The witch walks free today, no branches pull my sleeve. The sky is far too big for me,
And I refuse to leave. Behind me lies a broken garden, a prison dressed in patient green. Ahead of me the road is messy and wonderfully obscene. But what I cannot stop remembering is not the warden's fading rain. It is the storm that rose beside me when Lirael screamed my chains away. For just a moment in that battle, when crimson thunder split the sky, I felt her magic change its heartbeat, something ancient standing by. Not simply bard nor simple singer, something deeper in the sound. I felt her divine fate nature unleashed for just a breath unbound. And I stood there thinking quietly while roots and centuries fell apart. What kind of bard twilight kiss the leaves. Freedom tastes like strange adventure and mild irresponsibility. The forest fades behind my footsteps. The road ahead begins to sing. And maybe that ridiculous bard is not the strangest traveling thing. But one thought lingers in my laughter, a quiet truth I cannot dodge. Now you freed me, Lirael, so I'm coming with you. Responsibility is important. You sing like the world is wider than it is. And frankly, that sounds fun to see. So until you prove that song is wrong, I suppose you're stuck with me. The forest sleeps where storms once raged. The roots lie quiet in the ground. Even the wind seems tired tonight, like it forgot its wilder sound. Cedric rests lying on the ground. Serena dreams in fading light. Nivessa's embers slowly breathing. Karli humming soft and bright. And I sit awake beneath the sky, watching stars I cannot name. Because the storm that broke the forest still remembers me the same. Hey, hey, hey! Oof sleeps softly near the fire, a quiet shimmer in the grass. No trace of battle in her breathing, no hint of power that came to pass. She trusted me with something sacred, a gamble neither of us knew. Yet when her essence touched my heartbeat, the storm inside me somehow grew. Not resistance, not collapse, but something deeper interlaced. They said the vats that formed her body were meant to birth the god from clay. Artificial thunder waiting for a soul to show the way. Yet when she poured herself within me, the magic didn't tear apart. It flowed as though the storm she carried already lived inside my heart. I know I'm not a crafted weapon. I had a childhood warm and real, a mother's voice in quiet evenings, a lullaby I still can feel. But one small truth now stirs the silence, a question drifting through the flame. The only ghost inside my story is one I never learned to name. My mother's eyes, my mother's grace, but someone else's storm in place. What answered when ooh touched my spirit? What ancient echo woke in song? What sleeping thunder in my blood has waited quietly this long? The forest felt it, the sky remembers. Even the stars leaned close to hear when crimson storm and emerald fury became something far too clear. I do not fear it. not tonight. But questions burn in softer flame when storms retreat from battlefield and leave a quieter kind of pain. So I sit beneath the endless dark, listening to the sleeping land, feeling something vast and distant stirring quietly in my hand. If the storm came from somewhere, if the song has deeper breath, perhaps one day I'll meet the answer waiting somewhere past the crest. The night is calm, the stars are wide, and something ancient walks inside. A storm I sing, a truth unknown, a power that might not be my own. If the storm came from somewhere, I suppose one day I'll meet him. Father. We found a tavern off the road, still smelling faintly less like blood. Karli stopped just near the doorway, like freedom still might change its mind. Like if she breathed a little louder, the roots might call her from behind. So I touched her sleeve and grinned a little. She looked at me, then at the table, and somehow stepped towards the flame. Pull up a chair, ignore the noise. We're not heroes, just louder choices. We break, rebuild, survive somehow, and make a family out of now. Cedric sat too straight for comfort, Serena glowing soft and gold, soul and quiet, watching endings, and Nim relaxed for once, I'm told. Hildrek stared into her drink, Argel silent, half in flame. Raviel saw more than faces, Oof had made a place by name. Mog was barely holding back, something loud and slightly wrong. One more seat and one more story, one more scar and one more song. You don't join us by permission, stay alive, and you belong. And you belong. Oof spoke first, no wasted breath. You are friend, she pulled her close. Karli laughed a little startled, direct, but I suppose it works. Nivessa leaned beside her candle, one brow raised, expression sly. Another witch, good try not dying. We did enough for you, don't make us try twice. Karli smirked and raised her mug, sharp tongue, I like you. Nivessa snorted, almost smiling, that's your first bad choice, enjoy the view. Raviel turned ember sight, past the skin and into truth. There is no shadow in your soul. Karli nodded, faint amused. Good, I'd hate to start like that. Mog stood up like something broke. Welcome tonic, mostly safe. Karli eyed the glowing bottle. Define safe? Flexible. Raise a cup and make it awkward. Laugh too hard and stay too late. Some are solemn, some are reckless, most held up by stubborn fate. Around the table something settled, not a legend, not a plan, just the ones who kept on breathing long enough to make a stand. Armor cracked and magic fading, eyes too tired to pretend. Not a party born of glory, just a group that didn't end. No roots beneath her pulling back, no ancient voice to say remain. Just warmth and noise and reckless people who somehow made a place from pain. She wasn't standing at the threshold, she was already inside, and no one there would ever ask her to step back out and hide. She looked at all of us together, at broken shield and ember light, then looked at me like I'd created something she might not quite fight. Half amused,
softly says, I think I'm staying here with you. One more chair and one more heartbeat, one more laugh to fill the room, one more witch with crimson fire and perfect timing for the bloom. We are not clean, we are not simple, we are not chosen, neat or planned, but if you sit beside our fire, you are ours, and we are yours. And that is how this family